Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring in the top left-hand side, Wolle. I had no idea that clan names could be this long. I don't know what it stands for. TSCHUH. Huh? Wolle, our red Zerg. He is in Gold League, so you may leave now if you want to, but if you do, you'll regret it later on your deathbed. Our blue Protoss in our bottom right-hand side is Kitana from clan TioN. Hey, he's also in gold, but they're very, very high gold. They're like rank top 5 or something like that, so they're ready to move on to platinum. I'm expecting to see good build orders, probably poor execution of those build orders, maybe some micro mistakes, just generally lacking in one area of a fundamental discipline. That being said, it's always amusing to watch gold players because there's just enough greatness there to get your hopes up, and then something happens and it's just disastrous. But I love these types of games. I'm looking forward to it right now. I don't know if you can hear the smile in my voice, but there is definitely a smile in my voice. Speaking of a build order, Kitana is throwing down that pylon on the low ground, making it motions like he wants to do a forge fast expand or something like that, shying away from the typical gateway first sort of aggressive build that we're beginning to see out of Protoss, which I love, which I really like, because it's 100% different from what you traditionally see out of Protoss. It's very, very cool. I get excited about that. I also get excited about this Wolle with good timing for his drone, moving out at that 13 supply mark just to see exactly what was going down. Sees that there's no nexus first, sees a forge being thrown out, sees a second probe leaving. All of these things are clues. Really cool play here. Get that overlord behind the mineral line to see if you're going to get cannon rushed. See if there's going to be like something like this going on. Is that outside of range? Oh yes, of course it is. Fantastic. Losing control of where the probe is, that's a disaster, especially whenever you see a forge on the way. This is going to be a cannon rush right here, which is bad because the drone that's going to be building the hatchery is going to see this pylon whenever it moves down. Two probes or drones being pulled, going to be walking right past that photon cannon, electing to go after the probe rather than the photon cannon, but pulling so many of his drones. An excellent play here. He's not, oh no, he's going after the pylon. He's not going after the photon cannon, only having 2 drones on that photon cannon. That is disastrous. That photon cannon is definitely going to finish and is going to be able to do so much damage when it does finish. And that probe is still alive. Oh, actually, I think that's the second probe. The first probe, is that dead? Nope, not dead. First photon cannon finishes with its shields just barely down, and the second one is going to be finishing on the low ground. The hatchery hasn't even been started yet, so it's not going to be the end of the world. The hatchery is going to be able to go in a different location. He's sending probes in every which way, one of which is being followed. One drone is being followed by a probe. I do that all the time. I don't know why I do that. I don't even play Protoss. This drone, though, is not been followed at all. Is it going to be throwing down a hatchery, or is it going to be one of these? These drones are everywhere. This is absolutely ridiculous. We do see a spine crawler being built. He'll be able to peck away at something somewhere, I suppose. Is this no, that's also a photon cannon. So yeah, maybe not. He won't be able to do damage to either of these photon cannons, I don't think, unless he gets a queen out there to start spreading creep and maybe goes along the left side, peck away at that pylon. Regardless, it's not going to depower anything. On the other side of things, Kitana has yet to take his own natural. He blew a lot of money. I mean, look at this. 1, 2, 3, for 5, 700 minerals right here or something like that. That's a lot of minerals. There's a lot of minerals, and that significantly is delaying his own nexus, which means that even though this hatchery is being constructed right here, he's not super far behind economically speaking. I mean, 17 over 14 harvesters at the 6-minute mark, or 5:30-minute mark. Not the worst thing in the world. Why is there an extraction there? I know! Why? Why is there an extractor there? I love this game already. This is absolutely fantastic. I love the second spine crawler, just in case these photon cannons get back their ability that they had in the beta, where they were able to disappear and reappear somewhere in a power field. Do you remember that? That was absolutely fantastic. Good control there by Wolle. Wolle or Wally? I'm beginning to question myself. Wolle. Good control there, making it so they only took 1 pot shot from the photon cannon, but unfortunately he's just barely out of range. Do they have the same range? Is it 7 on 7? It is 7 on 7. That's what I thought. So yeah, he's not going to be able to hit them without being hit himself, and I believe photon cannons come out on top just because you have to burrow your spine crawler. With a second spine crawler being constructed and 2 queens there, possibly to do transfuses, it's not out of the question for him to break this containment. All he'd have to do is take out that photon cannon and then go to town on that pylon. However, on the back of this, Kitana is throwing down his his own nexus, and it looks like we're beginning to approach a standstill. We do have the Gateway making the first attacking unit of the game besides the Zerglings. I'm exaggerating, of course, just for comedic effect. I'm exaggerating. Surprise, surprise. We see the first gas being tapped. I love this hatchery so much. It's got a queen, it's got a spine crawler, everything. I'm not going to lie to you. I did look through just to see exactly how action-packed this is. We're now up to ×4 speed, and I don't believe anything happens at all for the next 15 minutes or something like that. So we'll stick around at 4 speed just for the time being. Mothership core on the way, lair coming out for Wolle back at home. It looks like the spine crawler gets into position, manages to take down a pylon, does not manage to take down the middle pylon. No big deal. No big deal at all. It looks like a second hatchery is on the way in the top right-hand side. Actually, really nice positioning because these are the absolute last place that I would think to look for, you know, basically anywhere for a hidden expansion. I like the creep spread from the queen. Unfortunately, it's going to be impossible to break this without mass-producing Zerglings or roaches. Got 7 roaches on the production tab right now, as well as a spore crawler, just in case something comes flying along. It looks like a phoenix was hallucinated by some of those sentries. A single void ray poking out, not seeing anything except for the extractor, which was already scouted. It looks like the roaches have succeeded in cleaning up this, opening the front door for that natural. And with the creep spread, very aggressive. I don't 100% agree with this because Wolle is basically going to be revealing himself to these void rays. The void rays see the creep, will naturally assume that there is a base over in that corner, hopefully. Speaking of void rays, guess what? There's a Stargate on the field. 3 void rays means 2 Stargates as well as a fleet beacon going down. Absolutely fantastic. Both players beginning to bank quite a bit of money, but with a third being taken from Kitana and him having enough tech on the field to start affording charge, as well as Templar Storm and High Templars coming out, his tech is looking very intimidating. Speaking of intimidating tech, we have the Hive poking out, and we've got the extended life for the Locust. So those swarm hosts are going to be popping out on the field, and this is actually beginning to shape up like a very traditional late game Protoss versus Zerg, where you have, you know, a lot of those those swarm hosts burrowed underneath, supported by some very mobile Hydralisks against a very heavy tech death ball coming out from Protoss. And so he's going to have to beware the AoE from those High Templars. He's going to have to be very wary of the fact that these Void Rays can focus down pretty much any of those swarm hosts. And then he's getting the carriers. Absolutely, he's getting the carriers. Why wouldn't you get carriers? Graviton Catapult also coming out, the extra boost to those interceptors so they can get right on top of those units. This is absolutely fantastic. A lot of anti-air represented here, not only from the static defense, but also from those Hydralisks. Does he have Groove Spine? No, he's just now starting the Groove Spine, and he does not have the muscular augment. So unfortunately for him, these Hydralisks are going to be very, very slow. But fortunately for him, he is taking his 4th base right now at the natural location, and he can have 11 Overlords on the production tab right now. Look at that supply. He will never get supply blocked again. Right up to 200 supply, +3 range, +3 armor also coming out. And unfortunately for Kitana, it looks like the creep spread has managed to make its way over to his natural 3rd, which means that he's going to be significantly delayed in taking that, especially because I don't believe he has an observer. Does he have? Of course he doesn't have an observer. He doesn't have an observer. He's not going to be able to clean up any of this creep spread for an extended period of time. And remember that the locusts, the swarm hosts, were also being researched. Did he actually make any? Did Wolle make any? He did not just yet. But with no observer on the field, those the swarm hosts are definitely going to be very sturdy, very difficult to kill without the ability to detect anything. Okay, single observer coming out. It looks like 2 of the void rays were cleaned up, and one of them brought deep into the red. And these Hydralisks are basically boss. They have this entire encampment locked down. One of the Hydralisks, the weakened one, cut down by the Hydralisks, and it looks like the Void Rays managed to limp back home. Carriers have arrived out onto the field, and we do have a handful of High Templars supporting them. So these Hydralisks are going to have to be very careful. Really don't want to get caught in all that AoE. But man, these upgrades are getting absolutely out of control. At 100 supply, he's getting absolutely everything in the book. This is fantastic. 14 swarm hosts on the production tab. That's going to be absolutely devastating. Just being able to lay siege on top of this. I don't care how much AoE you have, how many units you have. Eventually, 14 swarm hosts will be able to wreck your front door. The carrier is moving out though with the observer in tow, and is going to be able to clean up a little bit of this creep, hopefully making the creep retreat, though I guess he missed one creep tumor. Good control there by Wolle. Spread out that creep tumor, make it last for as long as possible. Here comes the swarm host. What in the world are we seeing? 8 spine crawlers, a handful of spore crawlers are also being thrown into the mix, making it so that these swarm hosts. This is exactly something that I would expect to see like 15 minutes into a Destiny game or something like that, where he just has so many, this wall of crawl, and then all of these swarm hosts just throwing down so much damage. And really, there's not a lot that Kitana can do except for retreat and hope that eventually he can get up enough detection, enough carriers that he can actually 1A into this, because I think that any form of micro is going to be way too much for Kitana. Oh man, Wolle making a really, really good decision, you know, to get out these locusts. These guys are going to be incredibly cost effective, and I have to admit that Kitana took a very, very early advantage by getting out the contain in the form of those photon cannons, but then really didn't capitalize on them. I mean, yeah, he succeeded in getting out a ridiculous amount of tech, and carriers are always fantastic, even if you're producing them 4 at a time. However, he's contained on 3 bases. He really doesn't have anywhere else to go. His main is eventually going to get mined out, and then there's just going to be a slow heat death to the Protoss. So I feel like Kitana is quickly approaching a no-win scenario, and he's going to have to decide, when do I move out? Do I wait for as many carriers as I can possibly afford, or do I move out at a more reasonable time? Because right now these carriers could definitely take out the 3 spore crawlers that he'd have to engage at one time, and then he'd be able to move in here and actually take out these swarm hosts instead of just dealing with this siege tactic that Wolle has seemed to have settled on. And he's really got to be careful about these Hydralisks. Now that Muscular Augments is done, these Hydralisks move incredibly fast, even off of creep, getting right underneath a carrier, just showing you how incredibly destructive they are. Moving in here, have to be careful about that storm from the High Templar. Storm is totally done. They really needed to throw that down there, but nope. No, why would you? Why would you? He's distracted by all these swarm hosts. Oh man, this is awesome. This is absolutely fantastic. And the best part about it is the bank. Just Wolle has so much extra money. He doesn't need anything else. He's just taking extra bases to take extra bases. He's got his own naturals, just barely mining with a handful of drones. How many drones is here? Absolutely, you need that many for a single patch. That is great. And then eventually that's going to get mined out. He's going to be able to transfer to one of the mini bases that he has left over. A good decision here to get the mothership core. A good decision to be able to, you know, cloak up your units just in general, but also to save your nexus, because obviously at Gold League it's difficult to manage the minute things like getting detection out there and actually being able to deal with a very big and scary unit like that mothership core. Obviously Vipers would be a fantastic choice against her, just being able to yoink her away into that massive ball of Hydralisks that we had running around here somewhere. Well, look at that! Whoa, one step ahead of us. I totally missed the Vipers on the production tab. 3 of them already out. One of them, at least one of them, with enough energy to do several yoink micro attacks. And oh my goodness, at the same times the carriers are moving out. Where are the swarm hosts? The swarm hosts need to get down here with their locusts to support those Hydralisks. Oh, massive storm right on top of them. Kitana actually doing a really good job in this engagement, picking off those queens, making it so those transfuse do not stick around for very long. Good decision here by Wolle to reposition himself with his Hydralisk inside the wall of crawl, pushing forward with his Hydralisk. There goes a yoink on top of one of the carriers. It melts away. Where did the mothership core? The mothership is just left by herself, totally exposed to those Hydralisks. If they wanted to get underneath it, they'd be able to melt it away. There goes all of its shields. There goes all of its health. Just destroyed so incredibly fast. Those Hydralisks with their 3/3 upgrades, just unstoppable. It's ridiculous amount of just damage they can spit out. 3 more carriers on the production tab though. 10 carriers in total out on the field. 70 interceptors. Oh my goodness, it's ridiculous how much damage that is representative of the Protoss race. 16 corruptors on the production tab though. If anything can deal with that many carriers, it's going to be a lot of corruptors, especially when they're accompanied by some healthy Hydralisks on the bottom side. Speaking of healthy, the Nexus is completely dead, and it looks like the swarm hosts are beginning to take just a little bit of damage as Kitana has found the chink in armor. It looks like there was only 1 or 2 spore crawlers on the left side there, and because he's been able to kind of circumvent that entire defensive network, he's been able to actually push in there and actually do some damage. 2 observers are alive though, and they are scouting out these swarm hosts. They begin to pick them away. At the same time, the Hydralisks have found the natural, and they are beginning to push forward, deal some magnificent damage to the infrastructure there. For the first time ever, the supply is beginning to even up. The production tab has completely fallen silent, not for lack of money, not for lack of supply, but more likely a lack of focus. Wolle is focusing 100% on his corruptor control, making it so that he can quickly deal some massive damage to the infrastructure back at home with his Hydralisks as well as his roaches, both of which are going to town on the carriers, which evidently were decided to fly directly over those Hydralisks. Unfortunately, suffering a massive amount of damage from that. The corruptors, the carriers are returning home. It looks like that's going to be more than enough to actually clean up these Hydralisks. At the same time, another carrier goes down, and we only have one more on the production tab. And what is this? The main is totally mined out. These probes are just sitting here idly. There's barely enough money to throw down a single nexus, and that third is the only location that he can actually throw something down, unless he wants to walk all the way across the map. Oh no! Electing to throw down the nexus at the natural is a terrible idea. Only 70 minerals remain in this field. That's not enough to actually justify the creation of this nexus, and he doesn't have enough money to throw down a nexus over here at the third where there is so much extra money. This is disastrous for Kitana. I wonder if he's going to realize his mistake before that nexus actually finishes, or if he will allow it to finish. He's going to have to be long distance mining for an extended period of time. Speaking of an extended period of time, I don't believe that those carriers have much time left on this earth, because there's just so many massive amount of corruptors out on the field. Yes, the majority, I think all of those Hydralisks did get cleaned up, but replacing them 1-to-1 ratio with those corruptors is definitely a great decision. They are that's in a lot of trouble. Okay, there we go. There goes the cancel, and it looks like he is going to be making the nexus over here at the third. I was very concerned about that. I was keeping my eye on it. 5 more corruptors on the production tab. We have +2 weapons popping out, as well as +1 armor, making those corruptors very, very strong against the kind of pecky shot from those interceptors. Corruptors pushing in, catching a single Void Ray unprepared, but electing to retreat just one more time. I wonder what he's waiting for. He's already lost the hatchery there. These drones are going to be cut to pieces as soon as they come underneath them, and it looks like the observers have found the swarm host. So yeah, there's really not a lot left on the ground. However, Kitana has fallen under 100 supply, and he really just doesn't have the money to continue to produce anything. Even interceptors right now is just too expensive for him to actually make. With the nexus not even done, he's being forced to long distance mine. He's about halfway done waiting for that nexus. Maybe Wolle is just waiting. I don't know. Is he waiting so that he has enough energy on his Viper so that he can yoink the carriers away from each other, making them kind of split up into more manageable chunks? Or is he waiting for the carriers to engage on one of his mini wall of crawls, making them engage directly into a defensive hardpoint, making it so that he can kind of sandwich them between his corruptors? I'm not 100% sure. Ooh. I am not 100% sure because of the thought process of Wolle is a mystery to me. However, this is exactly what is going to be happening. The corruptors are going to be pushing in from the north side. There goes the Yoink Micro. 5 carriers instantly pulled away from the major units, and only one of them managed to limp back to the main force. Another volley of Yoinks and another volley of carriers go down, and his entire fleet is cut in half. Only 4 carriers remain, and it looks like Kitana is forced to tap out. Wolle taking the victory with a massive influx of carriers. Corruptors against the carriers. I love this game. This was absolutely fantastic. Hats off to Wolle not to panic and lose a bunch of drones early on. The photon cannon was being built, and he was so close. He had managed to take down the shields. He just needed to take down the health, but then the photon cannon was finishing. So instead of electing to lose the majority of his drones trying to take out this one photon cannon, which would have been terrible, he pulled back, set back, relaxed, didn't build a hatchery, didn't lose a hatchery, decided to build one in an unorthodox position. I mean, in all honesty, I probably would have built it over here at the third, but he made it work. He made it work great, and it was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was hilarious. And hats off to Kitana, because carriers are cool, and no one builds them for some reason. I wonder why. I really do wonder why, because I think they're absolutely fantastic. And also the Mothership Core needs a buff. Now that I see it in action, the health is comically small, and I feel like it doesn't have enough abilities. The cloak is cool, but I miss that wormhole ability, the vortex ability. That was neat. You know what else is neat is Wolle and you guys. So thank you for watching my video. If you have a game you want me to cast, you could PM me here or on Reddit, one way or another, I will see you guys